So in this week's Creative Confidence Catch-Up, today I'm going to be sharing about the Create Manifesto and why sharing and creating from the heart matters. So if it is that you don't know what the Create Manifesto is, for me, it's a set of principles that I use as a way to not only build my confidence, but then use this confidence as a way to then share my stories authentically with the world. And I still believe to this day that if it hadn't have been for everything that I've been through, the lived experiences as a kid, not having creative confidence or feeling that I lacked in it as a result of education, I feel like I wouldn't actually be here where I am today, being able to share the likes of the Create Manifesto with you in order to potentially get you out of your head and into your creative flow. And so at this moment in the video, you're probably wondering, so what is the Create Manifesto and what does it actually mean? So now I'm going to tell you all about it. And so the C part of Create Manifesto stands for celebrate yourself. Now, I know this is hard when it comes to expressing yourself creatively. I know I've been there. And when I was younger, I hated drama, for example. If anybody put me in a drama class, I was the last one to probably say a thing. And because we get so nervous, we have this idea of what creativity should be. And from that, I feel then it's kind of hard to accept creativity for what it is. I believe, though, if we celebrate ourselves, we have an understanding of why we are doing what we are doing in the first place. It makes it a whole lot easier. And then we can actually push back away from this perfection or this idea of creativity in our heads and kind of lean into why are we creating? And for me, like I celebrate myself through creativity because I feel that it helps me unwind. It gives me that spark of joy in life. Do you know when times get a bit like rubbish or you feel like a bit deflated for whatever reasons that may be? I feel creativity, whether I'm painting, whether I'm doing a podcast like this, I believe it's like within these moments, I get to share what it is that I want to and not have to think. It's a safe space for me to kind of just do what it is that I want and just see what happens. So with that in mind, how are you celebrating yourself when it comes to creativity? Are you held back by this idea of creativity that you once found as a child or what people perceive to be creativity? Or are you kind of thinking, actually, I want to create because I find it more peaceful. I find like certain topics really interesting that I want to lean into to chat about on podcasts, etc. What makes you want to celebrate all that you are? And what are you all about? What are you interested in that makes you want to create in the first place? Let us know in the comments. So the next part of the Create Manifesto begins with R, and that to me is rejecting perfectionism. Now, how many times have you started to be creative or have an idea of the way that you want to be creative, and then it turns out when you start to do things, it doesn't turn out the way that you want it? Now, maybe I find you just need less control. Now, for me, when it comes to perfectionism and rejecting perfectionism, I kind of, even though education was a bit of a sort of drainer for me, it really sucked the life out of me when it came to my creativity because I kind of felt restricted of what people wanted me to be. I felt that one thing that I really learned whilst at university in particular was this idea of using creative constraints as a way to help the process of overcoming perfectionism. How many times have you maybe popped a pen to paper, etc., and gone, I'm going to draw this, it's going to look great. You'll give yourself maybe a few minutes and then you go, that's really not what I had in mind. I've had that many a time, but it was when I kind of started to look into creative constraints a bit more that I really started to question the possibilities about it, and I really, really enjoyed it. For example, so I looked into this guy called Richard Serra, who was he was an artist sculptor in his own right at the time. And I looked into what he was doing due to the fact that university had been on about it. And he has what's called a verb list. Now, his verb list is, a load of different verbs. And instead of just like creating and thinking, oh, this is what something's meant to be, I took inspiration from that verb list in order to create. And funnily enough, this idea of perfectionism kind of went out of the window at this point because I had to respond in ways that I'd never done before. So it wasn't about what something looked like. It was more about how do I create in the fact that it kind of needs to resemble this word that's on this list. And from then, like, it kind of made me then want to venture out more to explore this idea of creative constraints. It doesn't actually hinder the creative process. It actually helps it to move the creative process forward. And if you haven't already tried it, I definitely try creative constraints, whether this be kind of, if, for example, if you are working pen to paper or whatever, maybe it's a color of pen that you're working with and you use that for a whole project. Or it might be, you might have been drawing all your life with your right hand. Have you ever tried writing or drawing with your left hand and see what sort of things come out from that? It will give you a different perspective on how you can see your work and how you can kind of push it to the maximum. It doesn't necessarily mean that creative constraints only have to be applied to that. In fact, you could use this for sculpture, you could use this for dance, you could use this for poetry. The list is endless. So these are just some of the ones that I've got. So I've got a pack of creative constraints there, usually as like so basically they use like little prompts, and then you just take words like symbols. It could be anything. All of these give you that idea to kind of start creating without overthinking it. It's when we overthink that creativity becomes problematic, and which is one of the reasons why I'm now going to tell you more about the next part of the Create Manifesto, which is exploring fearlessly. And this is something that is very important to me. So I feel if we explore fearlessly, play and create, we get the best outcomes. It doesn't actually matter about if they're mistakes, for one, and it doesn't matter if they're just a little scribble on a page or a little just experiment. It doesn't have to be a finalized outcome. In fact, I had a podcast with Gail Young. This was one of the first podcasts that I ever did in terms of the creative confidence catch up, and it's actually really nice to kind of reminisce about the fact that, yeah, we spoke about this idea of questioning the process in itself. When we kind of make all of the sort of mistakes, we do experiment, we usually get the best outcomes. And for me, questioning is the best form of creating this sort of mindfulness around material. I call it the power of what if. And it basically, I believe that curiosity brings us into a more mindful state, and it helps us to question everything. And the more we question, the more we uncover new possibilities. So, for example, one of the times where I felt my works were, I don't know, I felt like they weren't getting anywhere, but when I started to connect back to why am I doing what I'm doing, what material kind of reflects this, I always end up back to the same place. And often it is about exploring the overlooked, the reclaimed, the fragmented. When I think about this, it all basically expressing how I felt when I was younger, when I was this, I suppose, young artist wanting to break out, but I couldn't because I didn't know the words. I didn't know the things that I wanted to say. It's only now that I know what I want to say because I'm doing the things that I'm doing, if that makes sense. So yeah, the fragmented, the sort of the overlooked. Also, in terms of when I was in education, this idea that my actual mental health was oversought for the fact at one point I was so burnt out and I couldn't create in the way that I wanted to create anymore because of the societal expectations that were kind of being brought on me as a result of getting a degree, needing to finish deadlines, etc. And yeah, this idea of all of my projects have always been about the overlooked and being able to connect with materials that are also overlooked. It kind of creates a story in itself. So when it comes to your own works or your own creativity, are you exploring this possibility of kind of exploring new and innovative ways to create? Are you creating as what Gail calls golden nuggets, be it a little experiment, a little sort of mistake, a mishap, whatever? If you are doing any of these things, yeah, be sure to share them with us in the comments. So once you move yourself out the way, other opportunities then start to make way within. So I never thought that I'd probably be working in the realm of like pottery right now, for example. But by accepting imperfectionism when it came to my own sort of practice, exploring like industrious materials such as sort of plastics, wires and all that, it's kind of then led me in tune to career paths such as ceramics, which is quite interesting considering I'd never actually thought of that option of doing that at a university itself. What's really interesting as well is I'm actually based in Stoke-on-Trent, meaning we are basically like the capital of ceramics. We're known for ceramics. So what better way to kind of that being a part of my journey and that being a part of like who I am. Like a lot of the time when people look at my work, especially the sculptural work that I do, it's very tactile, it can be very colourful. And it's funny how all of this becomes a part of us and our story. People start to kind of come towards you because they start to recognise who you truly are. And with that said, by kind of aligning with everything that you are all about, it proves then that it is actually everything that you do is coming from the heart rather just kind of, oh, I'm following the latest trend. I'm kind of going to do that because that person down the road's doing it. Really, it's like if it truly means so much or you are truly meant to be in alignment with something, these things come in your way, and it might literally just be you have that opportunity to jump in on that career path and just see what happens. Isn't it funny that when you start creating from the heart, however imperfect this may be, isn't it funny how you end up attracting those who actually get it? So teaming up for me is one of the very, very, very important things of Create Manifesto. Teaming up creatively is a way to get people talking based on common interests, and the digital realm in particular, be it Instagram or little platforms like that, is a way that you can really advocate a certain message. At one point, when I was doing embroidery, I grouped up with a few different other people, and we were sharing our insights around embroidery and how we could keep embroidery out of landfill. And our insights would be reached by lots of different people who would then also share their message. Now that I'm kind of diverted towards more of the ceramic realm, I'm kind of still looking at that idea of the overlooked and how we're keeping stuff out of landfill. But this time, it's more about how we use ceramics and reclaim ceramics as a way to help caregivers get out of their heads and into their creative flow. So isn't it funny how just by creating from the heart, it suddenly then becomes a sort of community matter. And when we have the community around us, be it on a digital basis, be it on a physical basis, we can kind of make more of a statement. I always believe it takes one person to have an idea, but a whole community to create any sort of actual change. So my question to you now is, have you got a community of people around you, and what is your shared message? So as we come towards the end of this week's episode, my final sort of bit in regards to Create Manifesto is embracing bold breakthroughs. So for me, my bold breakthrough for everything that I've been through up until this point now is, where is my Wonky Pot initiative going to head? And for me, I have just recently been looking into wheels, ceramic wheels. Now, I'm really interested in teaching, absolutely love teaching. So I do this on a weekly basis anyway. But for me, accessibility has been a key importance in all that I've been doing recently. Now, I feel that creativity shouldn't be stopped when it comes to disability, etc. And I want to people be on my workshops, whether they're old, young, they're in a wheelchair, etc. I just want my workshops to be, I just want to cater them to in terms of like the caregiving realm, if there is someone who's interested, I want to be able to provide that service for them. So for me, accessibility of this pottery wheel is of a key importance. So I feel like having these, so I've been looking into like little sort of small pottery wheels, and they're just an amazing invention. So at the moment, for me, my bold breakthrough is, yes, I want to teach. Yes, I want to do more of the ceramics. Yes, I want this, the ceramics kind of be created with caregivers in mind, and for them to be able to share their stories through the idea of clay. But how do I make it accessible? And for me, just kind of finding this sort of pottery wheel where I would literally be able to take it to the people. That is my bold breakthrough currently. So my last question is, do you have a bold breakthrough that's happened just recently? Or have you even got to that stage? Is it that Create Manifesto is something that you've not ever actually heard of and you're only just taking that on board? If you've got any thoughts, any insights regarding today's episode, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments, or feel free to join me in my Facebook community, in the Creative Confidence community. And yeah, let's have a chat there.